Picture this. It is a Tuesday afternoon. Nothing unusual about it. You are doing the thing you normally do on a Tuesday afternoon. Dinner is being planned. Maybe the kids are home from school. Maybe you are still at work heading toward the commute. The fridge is full. The phone is charged. The lights are on. Everything is exactly the way it is supposed to be. And then it stops. Not flickers, not dims, stops. Every light in the house cuts out at the same time. The hum of the refrigerator disappears. The router goes dark. The TV goes black mid-sentence. The kind of silence that follows is different from a tripped breaker. You can feel it in your gut before your brain processes it. This is not the circuit. This is something bigger. You check the window. The neighbors are outside. You check your phone, and the signal icon is still showing, but no news pages will load. You try calling your spouse, and it rings twice and drops. You walk outside, and every house on the street is dark. The traffic light at the corner is out. The gas station sign down the block is off. Right now you are fine, physically fine. Nothing has happened to you. You are standing in your driveway on a Tuesday afternoon, and the worst thing that has happened is the power is out. But the clock is running. Over the next 6 hours, 10 things are going to happen inside your household that you are not ready for. Not because they are unpredictable. They happen in the same order every single time. A grid failure is serious enough to last more than a few hours. The people who study emergency infrastructure know this pattern. The people who have lived through extended grid failures know it from experience. The people about to live through it for the first time are going to learn it the hard way. Number 4 on this list does the most damage. Not physically, mentally. It is the moment that changes how people behave for the rest of the event. And once that shift happens, it is almost impossible to reverse. Here is what you need to understand before we go through this. Every single item on this list has a solution. Not a complicated one, not an expensive one. The gap between the family that collapses in 6 hours and the family that manages 6 days is not money. It is not training. It is information. This kind of information, acted on before you need it. Let us go through the list. Realization 1. Their phones are dying and there is no way to charge them. Think about the last time you checked your battery level. If you are like most people, that number is somewhere between 20% and 45% right now. Not dead, not full. The comfortable middle range because the charger is always nearby and the outlet is always live. That is the battery level at the exact moment the grid goes down. In the first hour, nobody thinks about the phone. It still works. Signal is still showing bars. Texts go through. People check social media for information about what is happening, try to load news sites, call family members. Using the phone exactly the way they always do. Burning through that 35% like it is unlimited. By hour 2, the battery warning appears. People start making calculations. What is worth using power on? What can wait? The shift happens from casual to careful, but careful is still spending. The battery is still going down. The car charger buys time if the car is accessible and has fuel. It is not a solution. It is a delay of the same problem, and it burns fuel from a tank that may need to last a long time. By hour 5, for a significant portion of households, the phone is dead. Not low. Dead. And the outlet on the wall does nothing. Here is what people realize in that moment that they never thought about before. The phone was not just a communication device. It was the map, the contact list. The average person can recall phone numbers from memory, their childhood home, maybe a parent, maybe their spouse if they have had that number long enough. Everyone else in their life is locked inside a black rectangle that no longer turns on. The phone held the medication list they would need to explain to a medical professional, the insurance card photo, the school pickup documents, every digital copy of every important document they told themselves they should print out and never did. A fully charged portable power bank costs between $25 and $40 and holds enough capacity to completely restore most smartphones 3 to 4 times. Most households own one. Most of those power banks are sitting at 8% charge on a shelf somewhere, last used 6 months ago on a camping trip. The difference between a phone that survives 6 hours and one that dies at hour 3 is a power bank kept charged. That is $30 and the habit of plugging it in at night alongside the phone. The phone dying does not cut off entertainment. It cuts off every coordination system the family depends on for navigating a situation they have never been in before. And that compounds every problem that follows. Realization 2. They have no cash, and the entire payment system has gone dark. The modern household has organized its entire financial life around cards connected to digital networks. Grocery stores, gas stations, pharmacies, hardware stores. Every daily purchase runs through a card reader, a network connection, and a merchant-side power source. The system is so seamless that most people have stopped thinking of it as a system at all. They tap the card. The thing happens. Remove the power, and the entire structure collapses simultaneously. Card readers go dark. ATMs require electricity to operate. Bank branches lock when the lights go off. The card in your wallet is a piece of plastic referencing a database that is currently inaccessible. At hour 2, some stores are still open. Staff is present, product is on the shelves, but the registers are black screens. The manager has made a decision. Cash only. The average American household holds less than $30 in physical currency at any given moment. Less than $30. That is 1 tank of gas at current prices. Nothing more. The family at the counter with $600 on a debit card and $18 in cash is locked out. They cannot buy the water, they cannot buy the food, they cannot buy the batteries. Standing in a fully stocked store with no way to complete a transaction. Maintaining $200 to $300 in small bills somewhere accessible in the home means you can still operate during the window when stores are open and accepting payment. That window closes as the outage extends. But in those early hours, cash is the only thing that functions. Realization. 3. The refrigerator became a countdown clock and the timer started 4 hours ago. A standard refrigerator maintains safe food temperature for approximately 4 hours after power loss, but only if the door stays closed. Most people open it within 90 minutes out of habit. Every time that door opens, cold air escapes and ambient temperature rushes in. The refrigerator has no power to re-chill. A full freezer holds safe temperature for roughly 48 hours if it stays sealed. A half-empty freezer can reach unsafe temperatures in 24 hours or less. By hour 6 with normal door usage, dairy and raw proteins have entered or are approaching the temperature range where bacterial growth accelerates. Decisions need to be made right now under time pressure about what is still safe, what must be cooked immediately, and what is already lost. A family with a propane camp stove can cook and consume the perishable food before it passes the point of no return. A camp stove costs $30. A fuel canister supporting 20 meals costs $8. Combine that is $38 that makes the entire refrigerator contents recoverable. Without it, the food purchased 3 days ago becomes a progressive write-off over one afternoon. Realization. FAR. No verified information exists and rumors are running the household. This is the one that does the most damage, not physical discomfort, not financial limitation. The information blackout. Think about what a normal emergency looks like in the current media landscape. A hurricane forms in the Gulf, and for 5 days before landfall, every platform delivers continuous verified updates. You know the path, the intensity, the projected timeline. You know exactly what officials are recommending. You can plan with specific information because the information infrastructure is fully functional during the warning period. Now, remove that infrastructure. Television is offline. Streaming is offline. Social media requires a data connection that no longer works reliably. Cell towers carry backup battery power measured in hours. As that reserve depletes over the first 2 to 4 hours of a serious widespread outage, calls drop mid-sentence. Texts sit in the queue and never deliver. The data connection stops. By hour 3 of a widespread grid failure, the average household has 0 verified information. What caused the outage? How large the affected area is? Whether the situation is stable or getting worse? What official guidance says? What the realistic restoration timeline looks like? 0. Verified. Information. What fills that vacuum is rumor. A neighbor heard from someone at the gas station that it is a cyber attack on the eastern seaboard. Someone else is certain it is a transformer failure affecting a 5-county region and power will be back by 10 p.m. Another person drove through the next town and is reporting they have power there, a claim already outdated by the time it reaches you. Decisions made on unverified information during an emergency are the most dangerous decisions of the entire event. People leave safe locations to drive toward power that may not exist. People calibrate their actions to a timeline with no factual basis. People stay when they should move, or move when they should stay. The only device that cuts through this blackout is a hand-crank AM and FM radio. AM broadcast towers operate on independent backup power systems designed to run for weeks after grid failure because emergency communication is their primary function. Emergency management frequencies, weather alerts, and public safety announcements all transmit on those bands regardless of what every other piece of infrastructure is doing. A hand-crank radio requires no batteries, no charging, no network, no account. It works when nothing else works. Cost between $20 and $40. Most households do not own one because nobody ever expected to need one. By hour 3, the hand-crank radio is the single most valuable object inside any home that has it. Without it, every decision for the rest of the event is built on guesswork. And guesswork in an emergency always extracts a price. Realization 5. The water pressure is dropping and nothing was ever stored. Municipal water systems depend on electric pumping stations distributed across the distribution network. Those stations create the pressure that pushes water through pipes at the volume and speed that fills a glass in 3 seconds and flushes a toilet reliably. The stations have backup generator power. That generator power has a fuel reserve with a limit. In a brief localized outage that resolves in hours, the backup systems hold without issue. In a widespread failure where restoration is not happening the same day, those reserves begin depleting. Water pressure in affected neighborhoods starts dropping between hours 4 and 6 of a serious extended event. By hour 6 in a widespread prolonged failure, faucets produce reduced flow. Toilet tanks refill slowly or not at all. Showers drop to a trickle. The water currently in the pipes is the water that exists until pressure is restored. The minimum recommended storage is 1 gallon per person per day for drinking and basic hygiene. A family of 4 needs 4 gallons per day at minimum. A 3-day supply is 12 gallons. That is 3 standard water jugs from any grocery store at approximately $6 each. Total cost, $18. Space required, 3 square feet of floor. Most households have stored 0. Realization. The kitchen stopped being a kitchen and nobody planned for that. Electric range, electric oven, microwave, electric kettle. The American kitchen, as installed in the vast majority of homes built in the last 40 years, is a completely grid-dependent food preparation system. Remove the power, and the kitchen becomes a room full of storage containers and non-functional appliances. The pantry at hour 6 may be completely correct from a supply standpoint. Pasta, rice, canned soup, dried lentils, oatmeal, all of it requiring sustained heat to become a meal. The food is there. The mechanism to prepare it is not. People open the back door and check the grill. There is propane from summer. The grill can cook a meal. It was never mentally categorized as a kitchen backup because it was never considered in that context. But it works. The family whose tank ran out in September and was never refilled is opening the pantry at hour 6 doing math on what is edible cold. Crackers, peanut butter, canned fruit. That is dinner. And possibly breakfast tomorrow. A compact single-burner, propane camping stove stored with emergency supplies means every pantry item remains accessible regardless of grid status. The rice cooks, the pasta cooks, the soup heats. Preparedness is not measured in how much food is stored. It is measured in whether that food can be prepared given the conditions that currently exist. Realization 7. The home security system has run out of power. Most residential security systems are engineered to maintain backup battery power for between 4 and 24 hours after losing grid power. The exact window depends on the system, the age of the backup battery, and how many sensors are connected. After that window closes, sensors stop transmitting. The monitoring center loses contact with the panel. Cameras stop recording. Motion alerts stop generating. The alarm stops being capable of responding to a breach. By hour 6 of a widespread outage, a substantial portion of residential security infrastructure across the affected area is offline or operating on the final minutes of reserve capacity. This matters in a specific context. The behavioral pattern of a subset of any population shifts during conditions of extended emergency. Not the majority. The majority of people are inside managing their own family situation. But a measurable number make opportunistic decisions during periods when the deterrent systems have simultaneously gone offline across entire neighborhoods. That number increases the longer the outage extends. Families who have thought about physical security as an independent layer maintain functional protection regardless of network status or battery reserve. Reinforced door strike plates and deadbolt hardware that functions entirely mechanically. Battery-powered motion-sensing interior lighting. A pre-discussed communication plan with 2 or 3 immediate neighbors. Physical awareness of what is happening within visible range of the property. None of these require a subscription. None require network connectivity. None run out in 4 to 24 hours. They function because they are physical systems that do not depend on the grid. Realization 8 scores. Ibi dispound or bubsta. Or the pantry has less usable food than anyone thought, not food in the house. Usable food. Food that can actually be prepared and consumed given current conditions right now. The frozen casserole thawing in a powerless freezer is not usable food. The pasta requiring 20 minutes of boiling on a non-functional stove is not usable food right now. Strip away every item requiring grid-dependent appliances and count only what is genuinely consumable under conditions that actually exist. For most households, that number lands between 1 and 3 days of actual caloric nutrition, not because the pantry is empty, because the pantry was stocked for normal weeks in a functioning household, not for the specific conditions of a grid-down situation. Families who stocked intentionally are operating differently. Pull-tab canned goods ready to consume without preparation. Shelf-stable proteins requiring no refrigeration. Crackers, nut butters, dried fruit, jerky, and meal bars that function as complete nutrition regardless of grid status. The difference between a household managing 3 days and one managing 10 days is not the quantity of food. It is the type of food and whether it can actually be used given the conditions. Realization 9. They do not know their neighbors, and there is no community to pull from. An extended grid collapse cannot be solved by any individual household alone. The range of resources, skills, and tools required to manage an emergency situation competently is distributed across a community, not concentrated inside a single address. One neighbor has a generator with 15 gallons of stored fuel. Another has a retired paramedic in the household with a full trauma kit. Another has an outdoor cooking setup with a 100-gallon propane tank. Another has a truck with a full tank and a 5-gallon spare. Another has a complete mechanical workshop in the garage. Another holds a ham radio license and the equipment to reach regional emergency frequencies. The combined operational capability of 6 informed neighbors on a single street incomparably exceeds the capability of any one household in isolation. That combined capability is accessible only if one condition was met before the emergency began. The relationships already exist. By hour 6, families who know their neighbors are pooling resources, sharing real-time information, coordinating watch schedules, and solving problems together. The families who never had a real conversation with the people on either side of their house are solving every problem alone with only what exists inside their own 4 walls. You cannot build a community from scratch during an emergency. That relationship capital either exists or it does not. Building it costs nothing except initiative during the months and years when it is not urgently needed. Realization 10. There is no plan, and the people they love are scattered with no way to find each other. A parent at work, a teenager at school, a spouse 25 minutes away in gridlock because every traffic signal in the region is dark. The phone died 2 hours ago. Nobody knows where to go because nobody ever discussed where to go. None of this happens if one conversation took place before the grid failed. Where does everyone go if we cannot reach each other? What is the backup location if the first is inaccessible? Who is the out-of-state contact everyone calls as a relay point? What does each person do in the first 30 minutes if they cannot reach anyone? Where is the printed contact list in a waterproof sleeve that every family member knows about? 5 minutes of conversation before an emergency prevents hours of paralysis during one. 10 realizations. One consistent pattern. The families who prepared spend the first 6 hours executing decisions made with no pressure and no urgency. The families who did not spend those same 6 hours discovering each problem as it arrives. The gap is not money, it is information acted on before it is needed. If you found today's video helpful, subscribe to Prepper Joe. Thank you.